Yo, what's going on, guys? In this video, we're going to take an early look at the Week 3 NFL slate on DraftKings. We're going to go through the process of building out an early look lineup, most likely a cash game lineup. We'll talk through each position, just look at some guys that stand out early on in the week. These aren't really full picks or anything. It's too early to give out full picks. I'm recording this on Monday afternoon. I will have my full picks video out most likely on Thursday or Friday. So if you want to check that out, I would really appreciate it. But for this video, we're just going to go through and talk through the process of building out a lineup for now. This will most likely be my dummy lineup to start off for the week, and then as we go through the week, make some tweaks to it, perfect it a little bit as we get closer to Sunday and as we get more news, more information as the week goes on. Before we do get started, guys, definitely would appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Make sure you click the bell icon next to the subscribe button, so that way you get notified every time that I upload. Feel free to comment anything down below. Let me know some of your standout plays for this Week 3 slate. Let me know how your Week 2 went. If you want to do a little recap down in the comment section, feel free to do so. Week 2 was not good for me. Didn't have that good of a week. Just missed on a lot of plays. Had a lot of guys get injured. I had a lot of exposure to Big Ben. He got hurt. Had a little bit of Drew Brees, and he wasn't good. Kamara was my highest owned running back, and he didn't have a good game. So it wasn't a great Week 2 for me. Let me know how your week went down in the comment section. Feel free to leave any feedback down below. I do really appreciate it. But let's go and take a look at this Week 3 slate. At quarterback for cash games, this is a position I always try and find value, and I have a pretty good feeling there's going to be a lot of value this week. We've already gotten the news that Drew Brees is going to be out for about 6 weeks, which is going to open up Teddy Bridgewater as a potential value. He is really cheap on DraftKings. He's at $4,700 in a road matchup with the Seahawks. We also just got the news that Big Ben's done for the season, which is going to open up Mason Rudolph as a value play as well. He's at $4,800 in a road matchup with the 49ers. Rarely do we get guys 5K and below that are playable, but for cash games, especially because this feels like a week where we're going to want to try and jam in the top two running, the most expensive running backs. Looking at running back, you got Barkley facing the Buccaneers. You got Elliott against the Dolphins, Christian McCaffrey against the Cardinals. I think all three of those guys are going to be great plays this week, and we're probably going to want to try and jam in at least 2 or 3 of them in our lineup. It's going to be pretty hard to get all 3, but you might be able to get 2 of the 3, especially if you go really cheap at quarterback. But there are a couple guys that stood out to me just a little bit above them. I know Jameis Winston's been terrible, but he's $5,400 in a home matchup with the Giants. I think Jameis Winston is going to be on my radar this week for cash games. Kirk Cousins, I'm a little worried about because Minnesota just doesn't throw the ball that much. Only threw the ball 10 times in the Week 1 game. Week 2, they did throw the ball more. He threw the ball 32 times, 14 for 32. He hasn't been great for fantasy through 2 weeks, just 14 and 11 DraftKings points. But this is a very good matchup at home against the Raiders. I could see Cousins being viable for cash at $5,100. Obviously, you're concerned that if Minnesota gets up in this game, they're just going to be running the ball a ton with Dalvin Cook. That's what they want to do offensively. They want to run the ball. So for that reason, Cousins might not be the best option, but I could see having him in my player pool just as a choice for cash. Winston's only $300 more, though, and we know Tampa Bay is going to throw the ball a ton. Winston, 36 attempts in the San Francisco game. He was terrible against Carolina, threw the ball 25 times in that game. Winston hasn't been good either this year through 2 games, but still in a home matchup with the Giants, I think he's going to be someone I have on my radar as well. But right now, the guy that I really like at quarterback is Josh Allen. He's only $5,900, very cheap. He's in a great matchup as well at home against the Bengals. The Bengals have just got torched this year defensively. Week 2, they gave up 41 points to the 49ers. They got torched by Jimmy G. And I think in Week 1 they played Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, if I'm correct. Yeah, played against Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, and defensively they couldn't slow down the Seahawks either. This Bengals team defensively has just been terrible this year. This is a great matchup for Josh Allen. Josh Allen, I think, is going to be one of my top cash plays this week. Obviously, as we get closer to Sunday, I'll be able to give more advice, more information. But I just have a feeling I'm going to be pretty heavy on Josh Allen this week. He's been really good through 2 games against the Jets and the Giants. 19 DraftKings points and 22 DraftKings points. 250 yards in both games. He does have rushing ability as well. 10 rushing attempts in Week 1, 7 rushing attempts in Week 2. He has rushing touchdowns in both games. Allen just gives you a lot of upside. You don't have to stack him with anyone either. He spreads the ball around. If you were to stack him with somebody, it would probably be John Brown. He'd probably be the guy that I would go to. But for cash games, I don't think you need to stack quarterback with receiver. It's just not that necessary. So I really like going to Josh Allen. He's one of my standout plays at quarterback. He just really stands out. Given the price tag, given the matchup, I think he's going to be on my cash game radar. But if we need to save salary, we can probably go down to like Winston or Cousins, or if we want to try and get like Barkley Elliott or Barkley McCaffrey, whatever, then we could probably go down to like one of these guys really cheap, like Rudolph or Bridgewater. But I feel like this is definitely a week we're going to want to get at least two. I would say at least, obviously, one of Barkley, Elliott, McCaffrey, but definitely feels like a jam them in kind of week where we want to get two of the three guys. All three are in very favorable matchups. Barkley's facing the Bucs, really bad defense. Elliott's facing a terrible Dolphins team. Dallas should have a big lead in this game. They should just feed Zeke. I think Zeke right now is my favorite between the three at 8,900 just because I feel like he's going to get fed in this game. He's probably going to get 25, 30 touches. Last week he got more touches than he did in Week 1. He got 13 carries in Week 1 and 2 targets. In Week 2 against Washington, he got 23 carries and 2 targets. The carries are going up. The workload's going up. I have a feeling in this game he's just going to be fed. So Zeke's my favorite running back of the three. I want to get probably one of the other ones in my lineup as well. And I feel like there's going to be enough value at receiver. Just looking at receiver before I started recording, there were guys that stood out that just are getting way too many targets for their price tag and are going to make for good cash game receivers. It's very close, though, for me between Barkley and McCaffrey. I think I'm leaning McCaffrey just because I like that game a little bit more. I think that game does have a little bit of shootout potential if Carolina can put up some points and if Cam Newton can actually play decent. So I'm going to put McCaffrey in there for now. If we have the salary and we want to go up to Barkley, I think we can. But for now, we'll just go Elliott and McCaffrey. That leaves us $4,400 remaining per player. So we're going to need value. There are already some standout values at receiver that I saw before I started recording. The first one that stands out by far is Emmanuel Sanders. He's only $4,800 on DraftKings. He's just seeing way too many targets right now. Just been too good to avoid at this price tag. I don't know why he's so cheap on DraftKings. So in Week 1 against Oakland, he kind of salvaged his day with a late touchdown. Got 5 catches for 86 yards and a touchdown. But in Week 2 against the Bears, tough matchup, he still saw a ton of volume. 13 targets, 11 catches for 98 yards and a touchdown. Joe Flacco has been looking to Sanders. I like this matchup with the Packers as well. You would think the Packers are probably going to be winning this game and going to be playing from ahead, which is going to mean the Broncos are going to have to throw. I think Sanders is going to continue to see close to double-digit targets, and at only $4,800 on DraftKings, looking for a guy for cheap that's going to get the volume for cash. Sanders really stands out. There's a couple guys as well that stand out right in that price range. Very interesting to see how Jamison Crowder plays on Monday night against the Browns. I am recording this Monday afternoon, and that game has not started yet. But in Week 1, with Sam Darnold at quarterback, Crowder saw 17 targets, 14 catches for 99 yards. Don't expect a similar performance against the Browns on Monday night. But if he does have a pretty nice game, if Trevor Siemian's able to get him the ball, if he gets the targets from Siemian, then at $4,800 in a game where you expect the Jets to have to throw against the Patriots, Jamison Crowder could be another guy we look to for cash games as a cheap receiver. Just looking up a little bit more in price range, there's other guys up here, like in this 5K range, that are seeing a lot of volume. Larry Fitzgerald's been getting a ton of targets lately. 13, 11 targets through 2 weeks, 18 and 28 DraftKings points. I would say both have been in pretty tough matchups against Baltimore. I would say the Lions not that tough of a matchup. But the Baltimore matchup was definitely scary. But Kyler Murray's still getting the ball to Fitzgerald. I do like him as a cash game receiver. He's only $5,100. He's seeing double-digit targets through 2 straight weeks. Plus, you have that good correlation. You're playing McCaffrey, and then you got a receiver going back on the other side. Although correlation doesn't really matter that much in cash games, it's always nice to have it. So at $5,100, Larry Fitzgerald does stand out as a cash game receiver. Now we got $4,150 remaining for 4 spots. We're going to need to find some value. I imagine we're going to be paying down at tight end and defense. Just looking at the tight end position, trying to find value here. Just a couple guys that stand out for cheap. Maybe someone like Vance McDonald for $4,300. Mark Andrews has been great so far for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson has been getting him the ball through 2 weeks, 8 targets, 9 targets, 27, 28 DraftKings points. 100 yards in both games, a touchdown in both games. Now he gets to face a Kansas City team that is pretty weak to tight ends. I think Mark Andrews, if we can find a way to get him in, 4,600 should be able to get him in there. For 600 more, you can get Evan Ingram against the Bucks, which does feel like a bit of a stronger play. If we had the salary, we might can upgrade to Ingram, but for now, let's plug in Andrews at 4,600, and I can already tell you we're going to need to find a cheap defense. So for cash games, I usually like to find cheap defenses that are at home, that are favored. Not sure if the Chargers will be favored, but they stand out as a cheap defense at home against Houston. Deshaun Watson, a very good quarterback, but still his offensive line is terrible. Been allowing a lot of sacks this year. So 2,500, we'll go with the Chargers defense for now, but if we can make changes, we'll do so. That leaves us 4,750 remaining for 2 spots for a wide receiver and a flex. And just looking for some cheap receivers that could be playable. There's a couple guys I see. DK Metcalf was one guy I wanted to talk about. I think he could be in play for cash this week. He's seen 6 and 7 targets through 2 weeks, 12 and 15 DraftKings points. I do like this matchup at home against the Saints. Russell Wilson, definitely going to be a quarterback I play this week. I won't have him in cash games, but he will definitely be a part of my tournament lineups. So we could plug in DK Metcalf if we wanted to. Like I said at the beginning of the video, we could always go down from Josh Allen if we needed to and play a different quarterback. Or we could take out Andrews and put in a different tight end. Let's plug in Metcalf for now and then just see what that allows us to do for flex. We got 4,800. There's a couple guys I already see that could be playable. Jamison Crowder, especially if he has a good game again on Monday night. He's 4,800. Curtis Samuel, 4,800, could be playable. I expect him to see a ton of targets. Didn't see much volume in week 1, but the targets were there in week 2. Cam sucked in that game. If Cam would have been better, I'm sure we would have got a better game out of Curtis Samuel. And I do like that game against the Cardinals with how fast the Cardinals play offensively. That's going to lean to Carolina being able to get more possessions, get more opportunities with the ball. So for now, we can just plug in Curtis Samuel, and I think that's a pretty good cash lineup to start off with. This is obviously not going to be the lineup that I play on Sunday, but it'll definitely be what I start off with, and then as we go throughout the week, especially if value opens up as the week goes on, then I'm going to have to make some changes. But for now, that's a good start. If you wanted to, you could probably take out Josh Allen and plug in a cheaper quarterback, then that'll allow you to upgrade either your tight end or one of your receivers. Like if you want to go all the way down to Mason Rudolph or Teddy Bridgewater, you could do that, and that's going to allow you to get up to one of these low 6K or 5K, high 5K receivers, like a DJ Moore or a Stephon Diggs for 6K. Stephon Diggs, very interesting with that price tag. Tyler Lockett's been pretty good this year, 6,200. I like that matchup with the Saints. Mark Ingram, someone you could probably get to, but for now, we'll go with this as our first look lineup. I do like this lineup quite a bit. It definitely feels like a week where we're going to be jamming in 2 of the expensive running backs and then trying to find value at receiver. And I feel like the value is going to be there this week. There's already guys I see 5K and below that are seeing double-digit targets a week. So that's kind of what I'm looking to for this Week 3 slate. Like I said at the beginning of the video, my full picks video will be out either Thursday or Friday. If you are subscribed with notifications on, then you will get notified when that video is uploaded. So make sure you do that. Make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. If you have any comments, any questions, any feedback, feel free to leave them down below in the comment section. Let me know some of your early thoughts on this Week 3 slate. Who are some guys that stand out to you, early looks at this Week 3 slate. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.